we've got a market update of Woodstock. Derrek is going to break down what's going on in the Woodstock market and where we're at in October.
The month of August to September, there was a significant drop in the number of sales. That means there's a little bit more supply coming on the market. What's on the market in Woodstock right now? So this is a home that has been listed for quite some time. It's possibly an opportunity for a good single family burr. Over maybe some areas that are great to invest in or areas to be a bit careful in.
What's going on YouTube? It's Rebecca Lynn Matheson here, aka the Canadian Cottage Girl, and I have taken over Matt McKeever's channel for the day, and we've got a market update of Woodstock, and specifically Derrek is going to break down both August and September stats. So we're going to get a really good picture as to what's going on in the Woodstock market and where we're at in October. So guys, make sure you take notes, stay tuned. We're going to go through all of that as well as some projects that Derrek is currently working on. So welcome to the channel, Derrek.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, so it's been a couple months since I did an update. So we're going to be covering August and a little bit of September as well. So I'd like to say, yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope everybody had a great time, had lots of great food like I did. So I am a local agent based out of the town of Norwich, which is in the Oxford County, serve also the surrounding areas. In Oxford County, the big towns we have, town cities, is Woodstock, Ingersoll, and Tillsonburg. And then there's also a bunch of smaller towns in there as well. Norwich, Otterville, Mount Elgin, Innerkip, so little smaller towns like that. So we'll get right into my presentation here. All right, so the Woodstock market update for August and September. So before we get into Woodstock, I just want to throw a little bit of a highlight on a town called Ingersoll, which is just about 15 to 20 minutes away from Woodstock. So it's also in the center of southwestern Ontario. It's roughly 1/3 the size of Woodstock, or a little bit smaller, with about 12,000 population. That's a little bit old data, but gives you a good idea. It has what they call the CAMI plant there. It's a GM assembly plant that produces the Chevy Equinox, and they also have a good future because the plan is that they will produce the EV600 for GM, which is a light commercial vehicle. So it definitely has some interesting potential as well. So we got the map here that I was showing in my last update with Woodstock in the great location close to Brantford, Kitchener, London, but we got Ingersoll right in there as well. So it's, as I was saying before, Woodstock is located within an hour's drive of almost 2 million people. So Ingersoll is also within that same reach as well. So it's really great located. It's a little bit farther out west here, closer to London. So for those who are more from the western side of Ontario, that would be a great city to look at as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things like locationally here that I really love as well, you mentioned it's very close to large populations of people, but specifically it's right at the corner there of the 401 that joins to the 403. So that is a fantastic location there in terms of access, because we've got everyone from both the south as kind of running along the 403 there into Hamilton, as well as just north of that going up into Kitchener, Cambridge. So I I think Woodstock is definitely a fantastic location. And we've seen a lot of different investing plays happen out of Woodstock too. So yeah, definitely excited to see what stats have been going on through August and September. That's great, man.
Yeah, just one little more item on Ingersoll here, just to kind of give you a feel of the town. So it's located more on the north side of the Highway 401, so just off the highway. And it's an older town, so centered around that river and railway track. And just to, it has a couple of quite active railway tracks going right through the center of town there. So if you're looking at property in Ingersoll, that's just something to keep in mind as a possible factor affecting value. And it's also, for like the do-it-yourself investors, it's a smaller town, so it has, I believe, just the home hardware. And then so compared to Woodstock, that has like Home Depot and Allen Building Supplies and home hardware as well. So it's a little bit harder to access materials for the do-it-yourselfer in Ingersoll. I know that personally because I just finished a rental unit renovation there. So, but still great access, great location to a lot of different things.
Yeah, and it's so close to both London and Woodstock that if supply is an issue in terms of material, you can hop down to London, go to the Rona, go to the Home Hardware, Home Depot, whatever it is that you need. So yeah, I love this as a little niche gem that a lot of people don't know about.
And then this is some of the same information that I displayed last time as a bit of a refresher, or for maybe the people that didn't see the last video. And just a little bit of a background on the city of Woodstock itself. So it was a bit of a milling center in the early 1900s. So there had industries like making ropes and barrels and candles and furniture, that type of thing. So it was actually called Woodstock, the industrial city, to kind of give you an idea of the background and history of it. It's the largest city in Oxford County as well, and it's surrounded by a lot of rural areas. So there's lots of opportunity for local vegetables and produce, and lots of rural farms and stuff surrounding the city of Woodstock. All right, so for the different Woodstock listing trends, I again put the 4 items on the same chart to kind of see the different correlations between the 4 items. So the homes for sale, new listings, sales, and days on market. And it's interesting to see, kind of as expected, the new listings and sales are tapered off a bit. So like September, the month when everybody's going back into school, so people are less likely to be in the mood for moving. You can also see that last year as well, going into the fall there. The one interesting item here is from the month of August to September, there was a significant drop in the number of sales. So, and with a relatively the same amount of listings. So that means there's a little bit more supply coming on the market. So going into next month, it'll be interesting to see if that amount of listings stays up and if the amount of supply on the market becomes larger.
Absolutely.
Looking at the average sales price per month. So this was a item of note on the last market update of where the average sales price per month would be going. As you've seen up in the beginning of the year, in the spring, the average price really appreciated in Woodstock there. And then we had a couple of up and down months. So we were interested to see where it was going to go towards the end of summer and into the fall. And we can see that, like, due to supply still being quite low, that has held the average price has come up a bit. So you can see year over year, August roughly 15%, and September of this year over year is looking at around 22% appreciation.
Yeah, that's really interesting when we compare and contrast that to the last slide that you had, just seeing the average sale price actually continue to increase. And comparatively, obviously, we have less inventory as per your last slide on market, but we're still seeing not quite the same demand met, which is interesting given the sales price. But I would love to see what happens next month, just given these trends and trajectories that we're on. It looks like we're getting close in price point in terms of the average right here to where we were at in really the peak months of the year, you know, in that February to May range where we had quite high numbers, or even February to April, where we had kind of the top of the line prices. So it's interesting to see that it's like right back to about that same range.
Yeah. And then this is the breakdown that I did last time as well, looking at the different square footages range. So we can see here 1,500 square feet and less, holding very steady. And what I discussed with Matt last time is also the possible softening of the middle of the market from 1,500 to 2,500 square feet. As you can see, it was taking a bit of a dip there. So again, it's come up a bit in August and slightly back down in September. So that'll be an interesting trend to watch as well. We can see the 2,500 square feet homes and up definitely had a really strong September. One item to note, though, is from the 67 homes that were sold, only 6 were in that high end. So the small sample size can be affecting that top graph quite a bit. As for example, the 1,500 square feet and less, I think we're 34 of the 67 homes. So almost half of the homes sold are 1,500 square feet and less.
Okay, that makes sense in context for sure. Is there something happening in Woodstock that is going to continue to potentially cause that mid-range to continue downward, or is that just a measure of like the seasonality or time of year that we're in typically?
Yeah, I think it's partially a measure of seasonality and the types of homes available on the market right now. It'll be interesting long term to see what exactly, because you're dealing with a smaller sample size there, so you're going to see a little bit more variation in terms of the trend due to the smaller amount of homes in that middle and upper range. So it'll be just something to watch, and as a realtor in that local market, just really looking at what's sold in that range and comparing them to kind of see if there's any underlying trends.
Yeah, that actually leads to another great question, is just given the smaller sample sizes of numbers, just due to the volume coming on market in this kind of like off-season time, if you will, does that change your strategy when working with clients, or change your strategy with listings?
Yeah, for sure. If you know that there's going to be less homes that are on the market relatively comparable, that will change how you're going to attack price. I have a great example a little bit later in my presentation on how the comparables in the market can definitely affect how your home is sold. So I'll get to that a little bit later on.
Awesome.
And just as a function of the sold price as the percentage of the last listing price, you can see, especially in the beginning of the year, homes were going a lot over the list price. So it's come down quite a bit through the summer, and we've seen a little bit of an increase on the percent of going over last list price. So that'll be interesting to see going into the next month, whether that September was a bit of an anomaly, or if we're going to see a continuation of homes creeping up in the percentage of going over the list price. And then going into some of the building activity. So what I have here is September. Looking at one thing I noted last time was that the permits issued to date for single family homes was quite low. One thing we've seen here is in September, there was a lot of row housing permits issued. So that's good to see that there's more supply coming in that particular area of housing. I recently talked to the engineering department at the city of Woodstock. They said it looks like that the single family homes, there's a couple subdivisions, a couple developers that will be opening up next phases soon. And then they like to go for the permits in batches. So it's likely that the end of the year, we'll see some strong numbers come in for the single family homes as well. Now, some people might ask, why are we looking at new building permits, that kind of thing? One article or one report that that just came out from a think tank in Ottawa is that Ontario is going to need 1 million homes or units built in the next 10 years to accommodate all the people coming to Ontario and living in Ontario. So there's a really big demand for, or a big requirement for homes to be built. And at the current rate, the construction industry is not going to meet those million units. So construction will need to continue to be increasing in order to meet the demand within the next decade.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy how much lower it is than last year if we look at like the total number of permits issued, but definitely seeing more row housing as you noted there, quite accurately. And yeah, for sure, in terms of economic trends, I saw something similar as well about the amount of demand that we're going to see. And already we have such limited supply all the way across the board in Ontario. So if we're having a huge influx in the populace to not have already enough supply to meet the demand, if we're going to be adding more people to the mix there, we're gonna have to build. So how typically is Woodstock with their permitting process? Are they relatively investor friendly, or is it a relatively robust process to get a permit in Woodstock?
Well, I think any municipality, it's not the quickest or easiest thing, but they're definitely a town focused on growth and development. So it's good to see that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So kind of what's on the market in Woodstock right now. So this is a home that has been listed for quite some time. So I believe early summer it's been on the market. So I personally think it's possibly an opportunity for a good single family burr, maybe not at that listing price, but I think one thing for a lot of investors, they think they have to find deals, but a great thing that I heard recently is a lot of deals are made and not necessarily just found on the open market. So if you see a home like this on the market and you say, hey, it doesn't make sense for me at that price point, well, at some price point, it will make sense for you. So especially with a home that's been on the market for so long, this would possibly be a good opportunity for somebody to come in and offer under asking. And it's always good to make those offers because you never know what the situation is or what the motivation to sell is.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great tip. Listings that are getting kind of stale on the market definitely is an opportunity, because ultimately you're just trying to create a win-win scenario, right? If an investor is looking for a property, you're looking to create upside, sellers looking to sell, but they're not getting any bites. Like it at the end of the day services both parties' needs.
So for what's out there for investors, so for what recently sold, this was something that I had clients that were interested in it, but weren't able to acquire it. But this is a great rental opportunity. It's a semi-duplex, and the nice part was both sides were actually for sale, but this side was vacant. So that's nice. Ideal in terms of rental properties. And another thing that I really liked about this property was it had two separate driveways. So it's always nice when you have tenants to be able to separate them, and they both have their own separate points of entry.
Absolutely. So this is actually a great duplex example, and comparatively to like the London market, this is a much better price point for entry level investors as well who are looking for an opportunity to get into the game. What would you say market rents would be in something like this? So we have one bedroom unit and one 2-bedroom unit. What would be comparable market rents for each of those specs?
Yeah, so I got them on the next slide. Yeah, so the one maybe bit of a detractor on the value here is that the main floor unit was a 1-bedroom, and from what I could see, there was no easy way to create a 2nd bedroom on that unit.
Got it.
What I typically do if I'm looking, so right here on the next slide, so if I'm looking with a client at a number of different rental possibilities, I'll come up with a bit of a cash flow chart for them, just to kind of help them out if they're, especially if they're a new investor, they're not really sure what they're looking for. So I kind of threw in, I always try to be conservative with my numbers. I don't want to overpromise anything on the property. So I'll throw in based on some estimates, and will put down my assumptions here, and I'll put down any known costs. Like here we got the hot water rental, we got the taxes, different things like that. I usually don't factor in vacancies, or if I'm not, if maintenance is unknown, I'll just leave that, and that'll be something that the client has to factor in for what they're expecting. But this is something that I like to help fellow investors out with, and a part of the value that I provide as a realtor.
Yeah, I actually really appreciate this, because this is something that, especially as an investor yourself, you get utility from. So to be able to provide that to a client who is an investor, I think is really important, because it just goes above and beyond. So I actually do really appreciate spreadsheets like this and the number breakdowns, because it is important to make some assumptions when we're assessing these deals on potential rents, on like even I see you have noted here like hot water heater amount is approximate, but I think most of these numbers can be roughly generalized and assumed. So yeah, I really appreciate seeing a cash flow analysis sheet coming in from a realtor, and I think that just like really shows the level of care, and also just the fact that you're an investor yourself, I think makes a difference. And anytime an investor is trying to work with any service provider, whether it be their accountant, their CPA, or whether it be their realtor, having somebody who invests themselves and actually understands their goals is super important. So love that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit of like rough napkin math, but it definitely helps you see the picture a bit, because the property might look nice or whatever, but once you see the numbers, as an investor, it starts to make a lot more sense. And then for Woodstock, I just wanted to kind of go over maybe some areas that are great to invest in, or maybe not so great to invest in. So I got this little area here. It's west of Mill Street here. You got the 401 down here, hospital here. And this is more of a personal preference, I would say. I really like it because it's kind of like a quiet area, no big through streets. And most of these homes here were built roughly 20 years ago by one developer. Now there's a lot of them are smaller homes. A lot of them are maybe not the most like a custom home or anything like that, but they provide good value for your dollar. I had a rental property here for around 3 years, and I was able to get great tenants, and I would only have to go there like a couple times a year. So just for me, personal preference for a single family property, this is a good area.
Nice.
And then maybe some areas to be a bit careful in. So this is the Dundas Street. So it's basically the old downtown of Woodstock. So there's a lot of like small storefronts, minimal parking, that kind of thing. So it unfortunately has a fair amount of riffraff a lot of times. It's they actually have the police station right down here at the end here. They got the city hall up here, but yeah, so if you're investing in this area, I know there's a bunch of different multi-units, that kind of thing. It's just something to be careful for. There's not, overall in general, there's not really any really bad areas of Woodstock, but just a bit of caution when investing in this particular area here.
Yeah, presumably if it's all kind of like storefront from a residential side, we're probably looking at some like mixed use and zoning restraints as well in this particular area of Woodstock. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the things I really like about Woodstock, so this is the old downtown, and it didn't get merged with the new downtown. So like the new hub of Woodstock is more in this area. It's out of the map here, but in the bottom right-hand corner. So there you have your Canadian Tire, your Walmart, Staples, a whole bunch of the banks, restaurants, hotels. So that, I really like that about Woodstock, that it's been completely separated from this this older downtown where there's not a lot of parking, there's not a lot of space, a lot of small storefronts. So that's one feature about Woodstock that I personally really appreciate.
Absolutely.
So what am I up to? So this was sold last week. I had clients that were interested in this property. And so this is probably an example of importance of having a local realtor and being in tune with the market there. So what there was there was this property, so it was listed at 639. There was another very similar property, like built within a year or two of of this home, very similar shape and structure, lot, and within a couple kilometers of it. So this home had one extra bathroom, one extra bedroom, slightly larger lot, maybe tad nicer finishes, but both homes were listed within $10,000 of each other. So what happened, and they were holding offers until the same night as well. So what happened, everybody looked at the prices and they said, well, for a little bit more money, I'm going to go towards the nicer house. And what ended up happening on offer night was this home got 14 offers, sold well over 800, and the other home didn't really get any offers and remains unsold still. So it's just having a realtor that's in the market and knowing the different situations that might come up, because that other home was also a very good home, but it would just because it was being compared to this one, a lot of people weren't interested in it. And so that was an opportunity, if somebody was able to recognize that, to get a good deal on that other house, and being able to get it without a lot of competition.
Right.
So what have I been up to recently? So I've been on the realtor side of my business. I've been viewing a bunch of different investment properties. So I view them for clients. So I actually did it for a few out-of-town clients that weren't able to do the viewings, evaluate the property and kind of give them some feedback on them. So we have single family, we got a duplex, we have a mixed use building here as well. And also personally, I am currently in the middle of a flip project. We're about halfway through. Hopefully within in a month or so, we'll have it back on the market. So kind of a lot of cosmetic. So we need a new front porch, new kitchen. As you can see, like it just needs new flooring, new paint, new trim, that kind of thing. We filled a couple dumpsters.
I can see that. Very much so filled some dumpsters.
And for example, some of the things that I'm doing to look to add value. So here there was originally a really low covered, really low porch so that you'd like hit your head on. So we ripped it off. We added a little bit modern style pergola. It's still going to get stained. And then that way it opens it up, and it also allows more light in the back. And on the right here, what we have, so I think as investors, it's always good to look for opportunities to be able to reuse or use what's there as existing. So this shed, also on that property, it doesn't look the greatest right here, but we were able to buy a solution that cleaned the weathering off and restain it. So it looks amazing now. I don't have an after picture right here, but if you want to go on my social media on Instagram or Facebook, I'll have the before and after posted up there, and you can check it out. Yeah, so that's the end of my update. If anybody's interested in following me, they can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I post every week there on both of those platforms. I've also committed to sharing daily posts at least 6 days a week on Instagram and Facebook. So always putting lots of content out there for others to consume. And yeah, if anybody has any questions for me or would just like to chat real estate, I'm always up for that. So there's my contact information, and feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Love it. Well, definitely follow along with Derrek's market updates here on the Canadian Real Estate Channel, and hop over to the Gram as well as to Facebook to give Derrek some love on socials. And really appreciate you sharing all of these updates. And I actually do see a lot of potential in that back shed that you got going on there. So I'm going to be checking out your updates here on Instagram just to follow. But guys, really appreciate you tuning in for another market update here in Woodstock, and definitely check into some of these potential opportunities. As Derrek highlighted, there are opportunities on market that people are sleeping on, and I think always asking the question, always figuring out what numbers actually serve you and serve your business model and serve what your why is. It's really important that you ask those questions, work with an expert, work with someone like Derrek, or work with Derrek, and identify some of these opportunities. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode here. And Derrek, thanks for hopping onto the channel.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Rebecca.